What is up, everybody, and welcome to FLW Videos. In today's episode, we are going to be ranking the mythical Pokemon in Pokemon Go, taking a look specifically at Gen 1 through Generation 4. So a couple of unreleased Pokemon will be on this list just to make it fun. And as you noticed in the background, maybe you have seen this before, but a creator by the name of iDubbbz ended up going in and creating a tier list. He's done a couple of them. A couple of other creators have also done that. Reversal even commented on my Twitter post saying that he was going to be doing something similar to this. But I figured it would be a lot of fun to bring it into Pokemon Go. As many of you know, I typically cover things in like a top 5, top 10 fashion. So it's always fun to change things up. One of the most recent ones was doing like the March Madness style bracket. So this is going to be the next one that we do. But if you do enjoy this type of content, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So as you can see on the left side, we have a set of different letters that represent just how good the Pokemon is. And then of course it's going from A down to F, but the only one above it is the S tier, which is like superior. It's better than the best. And maybe we'll end up seeing one on this list. I do have a hunch that we will. So what we're going to take a look at first is the top row. So something interesting about this top row of Pokemon is that they actually have the exact same set of stats as each other. The only difference, of course, being different typings, maybe a different moveset, some of them being unreleased. But I do think we're going to rank them out a little bit different, so I'm definitely excited to cover it. The first one that we will talk about is the classic. We've got Mew. Now, Mew is kind of interesting, because in Pokemon Go, what has happened is Mew has a massive moveset, which on one side means a lot of flexibility. You could use so many different moves. At the same time, it is a huge TM trap. The only people actually going out trying to find an ideal moveset on Mew just have a ton of spare TMs. So for that, on the flip side, you're like, wait a minute, look, Mew's great and everything, but at the same time, I'm not trying to use a bunch of TMs for it. And then especially since we can't even pick the move, that's really kind of the big issue. So it's not necessarily just with Mew. It's more or less to do with the TM system. But regardless, that is a part of it. So when we're talking about Mew, it does provide that flexibility. If you do want to use it, you can. At the same time, TM trap. So in this case, what I'm going to do is go ahead and put Mew in as a C. For those out there, you can definitely argue it may be one letter higher, one letter lower, but I think C is a good spot for it. Up next, Celebi. So Celebi, kind of a similar situation, related to the stats at least, but then at the same time, you have a much smaller moveset. Unfortunately though, as just a grass type attacker, it just can't compete with some of the other Pokemon in the game. And kind of the same thing from the psychic typing as well, so it just kind of falls into a, you know, whatever. And then surprisingly enough, it's actually not that bad of a fairy type attacker. Especially for the fact that no fairy type Pokemon has a fairy type quick move, so it's not necessarily put down a level in that case. But when we're talking about this Pokemon, I honestly think it would be below Mew. At least with Mew, you can make it more effective if you're willing to use the TMs. But in Celebi's case, you can't really do anything with it. Up next is Shaymin. Now, this is going to be the land form. We will cover a sky form as well. So Shaymin's going to be interesting because once again, we've got this type of grass type Pokemon. Is it going to be good? Is it not going to be good? I mean, I think if we had had this conversation a couple of months ago, I would say that it would be a little bit higher up on the list. But once we ended up getting a Pokemon like Sceptile getting Frenzy Plant, or another Pokemon like Roserade getting Grass Snot, and then Breloom getting Grass Knot, all of a sudden, grass type Pokemon got a major upgrade in this game. So in this case, I think it would make sense to put it on the same level as Celebi. Up next is Jirachi. So now Jirachi is very interesting, mostly because of its potential moveset. So it is, you know, related to the steel typing at least. It has something interesting known as Doom Desire. Now Doom Desire is theoretically on pace with Meteor Mash. It could even be better. Hopefully we will end up seeing it soon. I'm predicting maybe Go Fest is when it would be released. But this Pokemon actually has some potential to become one of the best of its types. So in this case, what I'm thinking is that Jirachi should actually remain at the B ranking in this case. But we're gonna have to see. That's of course related to potential, but we'll see how it goes. Up next is Manaphy. So like we said before, has the exact same stats as all of the other ones that we have seen. Manaphy is fairly interesting because of it having, you know, like the water typing. There's not as much competition. Maybe Pokemon like Kyogre, for example, is going to be really dominant, but it could theoretically have a spot. The only issue is that it doesn't necessarily have the best moveset, which does hold it back. It could still hold into like a top 5 though. So because of that, I'm thinking I'm kind of between C and D on it, but I think for consistency's sake, it would probably make sense to go ahead and put it in at the D rank. Now, ladies and gentlemen, now this is not going to be really any controversy whatsoever. It has to do with the Deoxys form. So we don't necessarily have all of the Deoxys forms available in the game, but we've got 3 of them, at least right now. But as far as ranking these Pokemon, could we separate any of them? Because really what's going on with these Pokemon, they actually all share the exact same stamina stat, and that is the major issue with them. You've got a Pokemon like the attack form. The attack form has literally the highest attack stat in Pokemon Go, which is amazing, but the HP stat holds it back. Defense stat, or the defense form, it's got an amazing set of a defense stat, but once again, the HP stat is going to hold it back, or the stamina stat. So to be honest, what I'm personally thinking in this case is they're pretty much going to be down here on this F territory. Maybe the only thing that I could kind of see is the normal form. It's fairly overall like the most like kind of well-rounded one. The attack form is kind of a gimmick to some extent. It does have an amazing attack stat, and then the speed form is kind of neck and neck too, but I'd personally probably put the normal form over the rest of them, and like I said, they all have kind of their characteristic or whatever, but at the end of the day, what are we fighting over? They're going in the E or the F tier. Up next is Phione. Now Phione, believe it or not, actually has worse stats than the Pokemon looks very similar to it, Manaphy. So in this case, I really don't think it has a chance. Who knows, maybe at a very low league, like for PvP and Great League, it could end up being good. But what I'm going to go ahead and do with this one is put it in at the F tier. Now, we've got 3 exciting Pokemon to talk about. Let's go ahead and start it off with Darkrai. Now, Darkrai initially was looked at to be considered like one of the best ghost type attackers in the game, at least a couple of months ago, just kind of talking about Darkrai in general. Even though it is a dark type Pokemon, if it had Shadow Ball, it could be very dominant. But there's been a couple of updates. We've got Giratina Origin form gaining Shadow Ball, and then we also had Gengar gaining Lick. So in that case, you've got people who can now have access to it more recently, as opposed to like Shadow Claw Legacy move. So in that case, I would say that initially Darkrai was destined to be like one of the best mythical Pokemon in this game. But due to some new updates, it is going to be shifted down a little bit. I do think it is going to be a solid option though. So in this case, I'm actually going to move it up to an A tier. It is based on potential, of course, but I do think that people are going to love this. Hopefully around like Halloween time, we could see it as a raid boss. That would be insanely fun to do. Let's go ahead and move on to the next mythical Pokemon, the Shaymin Sky form. Now, something interesting about this Pokemon is it does have better stats than its alternate form of the land form, so that is definitely a plus, mostly associated to its attack stat. But as many of you know, Pokemon Go favors that attack stat, so that is a plus. But hey, I'm just thinking in this case, Shaymin Sky form does have some opportunities in this game. I'm personally excited about it. Is it going to be like an absolute top tier? I'm actually gonna give it a no. I do think, however, it will be somewhere around this level, like B to C range. I'm gonna be a little bit on the optimistic side and go ahead and rank it out at a B. But who knows? Definitely let me know in the comments section below what you think. Of course, it is based on potential. But we finally have the last one, the god-like Pokemon. We have Arceus or Arceus, whichever way you want to say it. Now, something interesting about Arceus, for one, is its major flexibility. Because of it having the different typing plates, it can be any type in the game, which is a major plus. The downside of it, however, kind of falls into the stats. Overall, it's ranked very well, but when you take a look at its attack stat, that is unfortunately its worst stat, and as we've talked about before, the attack stat tends to kind of be the make or break in Pokemon Go. So in this case, when we're trying to figure out how to rank Arceus or Arceus, you would think that putting it in at that S tier would make the most sense, but I do think practically speaking, with it actually being used in the game, it will most likely get beat from a lot of different types. There will probably be some niche situation where you could put it as a bug type Pokemon, for example, and then versus psychic type or something in raids. But overall, I do like the flexibility, but at the same time, that attack set just isn't quite there. I don't think it would feel right to put it in the B range, so I'm actually gonna put it on the same level as Darkrai. Yeah, you can go ahead and fight me over that, but definitely state your reasons in the comment section below if you think it should be higher, if you think it should be lower. But regardless of that, I definitely had fun with the list. So yeah, that just about wraps up the video. Definitely had a lot of fun with this. If you would like to see something like this in the future, definitely let me know what topic you would want me to cover. Maybe we could talk about the top starter Pokemon, the top community day Pokemon, whatever it is, whatever idea you have, definitely let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you next time. I wanted to extend a huge thank you to the supporters over at Patreon. You definitely make this possible, and I 100% appreciate this support. If you are interested in supporting my channel on Patreon, definitely feel free to check out the link in the description.